Hello, everybody. I have with me in the studio Lieutenant General Dr. Rajesh Pant. He needs no introduction. He's the National Cybersecurity Coordinator attached to the PMO's office, Government of India. So thank you so much for accepting my invitation and being here at such short notice.
Thank you, Nappinai.
The National Cybersecurity Strategy is a very, very important document. India had the foresight to come out with its first policy document in 2013. And we have progressed a lot in this time, and exponential growth has happened with respect to the digital world. If we could just jump right in, what, according to you, has been the impact of the 2013 policy, and how far have we come from the time when the policy was released till date, sir?
Yeah, hello everyone, and thank you, Ms. Nappinai, for having me here. I think 2013 is a good place to start because from the impact point of view, if it hadn't been for 2013 policy, I won't be here firstly, because my appointment was created from that policy. And let me tell you that we were one of the first few countries that time to come out with a national cybersecurity policy. In fact, that is one of the reasons why we jumped to number 5 spot in the Global Cybersecurity Index, which is maintained by the International Telecommunications Union, the ITU of the United Nations. So we reached number 5 spot globally, mainly because we came out with a national policy in 2013. As far as the impact is concerned, as I said, the appointment of the National Cybersecurity Coordinator came out of that. For the critical information infrastructure, the NCIIPC, or the National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center, came out of that. The NCCC was a product of the policy. The National Cyber Coordination Center, which is for the predictive threat intelligence, and some other institutions for cybercrime, etc., came out of that. It is still a very good policy. It is a current policy based on which we are functioning. It had a number of 11 aims, objectives, as that policy said, to fulfill. So I think it had a definite response, even to the extent of the expansion of our incident response mechanism in CERT India.
Thank you so much for that, sir.
Yeah.
Well, last year was a very busy phase where India was also looking at its national cybersecurity strategy policy for 2020 to 2025. Some inputs were also received from public and stakeholders. Where do we stand with this strategy document, and what is the expectation that India can have, or for that matter, the international community can have from this strategy document, sir?
Well, the National Cybersecurity Strategy of India for the period 2020 to 25 is going to be a path-breaking document, as you shall soon see. You see, what had happened is that the 2013 policy, as I said, is still a very good policy, but somewhere it lacked an action plan, if I may use the word. Because let's take the National Cyber Coordination Center, NCCC, that was to come up in 12 months, and it's been now 7 years. It is still doing phase 1 POC trials. There was an aspect of capacity building. We were expected to train 500,000 skilled cybersecurity people in 5 years, which was, say, till 2018. I think we are still, that number is short as yet. So in the 2020 strategy that we have made, we have now covered the entire ecosystem. The vision of the 2013 policy was to create a safe and secure cyberspace for individuals, business and government in India. So that creation part is now over. Now we have to go to the next level. And for the next level, the vision of the cybersecurity strategy, which has been frozen, is to ensure, find the word, now it is to ensure a safe, secure, trusted, resilient, and vibrant cyber ecosystem for India's prosperity. So now you see the vision is covering everything, and you'll find that we are now going to create the entire ecosystem, which will include threat intelligence and how the national level threat intelligence will be distributed. There might be a national malware repository. So there'll be a lot of national level institutions, and then how do we address the center-state relationships? How do we address the different sectors? So it's going to be an all-encompassing policy. Actually, we got a tremendous response. In fact, we had gone online in our portal, and we got about 300 responses from the public. And when I say a response, means each response was from an agency like, say, NASCOM or CII, etc. And even before that, we had presentations from think tanks, from academia, from industry bodies. So we had a lot of inputs, and we were ready in around March when the pandemic happened. So then we just took a step back because we found that a lot of changes had taken place because of the work from home environment, etc. So we've now added a new section in the strategy to cater for, as they call it, teleworking. So that is where the strategy stands. I think what needs to be understood is that between 2013 and 2020, there have been tremendous changes in the cyberspace of India. You see, 2013 was the days of maybe 2G, 3G. There was hardly any data consumption. Today, you'll be surprised, we are eating up about 738 petabytes of data a day. There are 600 million internet subscribers in India. There was no such thing as IoT in those times. There was no Industry 4.0. There was no cryptocurrency. There was no ransomware. So attack surfaces also changed, and the cyber system in the country has also changed. So this is what the strategy is going to cover. And as I said, it's going to cover the next 5 years, because in the previous strategy, there was no timeline also. It was open-ended. And we've also tried a bit to add a financial aspect to it, because unless there is financial backing, there's no point making a strategy or a policy or something like that. So we've tried to get the financial part also. This is in a nutshell, what the strategy is about.
So I think you really touched upon a very important issue here, the action plan. Because a policy document at the end of the day is only going to set out what is intended. And ultimately, you need an action plan which will then implement what the policy intends to bring about. We've been talking about Digital India for a long time, and I think in a way we have arrived. As you rightly said, now we have all these emerging technologies which are going to become the order of the day going forward. India may be postponing its 5G launch, but it is going to be imminent. We cannot postpone it too far. And I feel that in a way, COVID has kind of like streamrolled us into more digital India than what we would have anticipated. It's happened a lot faster than we would have expected. So when we are talking about digital India and we're talking about the whole strategy, the cybersecurity or cyber safety strategy policy, how do you see the nation moving forward in terms of the implementation part of it? How best can we implement? Because there were a lot of good things that came out of the 2013 policy. And I feel that without a vision, you can't really have focus in what you intend to achieve. So the policy document gave us that vision and a point of focus to lead towards. Today, we are at a stage where India should be actually leading in the IT phase. So what is it that you believe is the way forward in terms of the implementation aspect of the proposed 2020-2025 strategy documents?
See, you mentioned that due to COVID, we have been hastened into digital India. You're right. And for this, let me give a compliment to our Ministry of Electronics and IT, as well as the Department of Telecommunications. Because if we had not established the architecture of the infrastructure on ground, as well as the national level platforms, how do you think our governance would have taken place in passing the instructions of COVID, in the contact tracing of the apps, and all the committees that we formed, etc.? It was only because of the telecom and IT network that today, as I speak to you, we have been able to have one of the lowest mortality rates in the world, and I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that we continue this way. So definitely kudos go to the Ministry of Electronics and IT and the Department of Telecommunications. Now, having said that, as far as the preparedness is concerned, I would say yes, we were adequately prepared. But definitely a lot of things have to be done. For example, at the state level, there are hardly, uh, many states that have established a state security operations center, SOC, even a incident response team at the state level, even at the sectors for that matter. There are some sectors who have implemented a SOC, but there are many other sectors who have not implemented a security operations center. So besides the state and the sectoral SOCs, if you recall, have launched a number of apps recently due to the pandemic. And testing for the entire range of security products is required. If you talk of indigenization, except for a few companies in India, there are hardly any indigenous products. So a lot more needs to be done as far as the implications are concerned. Uh, Let me also take your mind to what the other countries are doing. You see, one good way of learning is to see how are the others managing it, because major economies are in the same boat. So if you see Singapore, uh, in fact, most of the countries have converged the different verticals that are handling cybersecurity at a national level under one organization, so that there is accountability also and there is responsibility also. So Singapore, there's an organization, Singapore National Cybersecurity Agency under the Prime Minister. In Israel, also it is Israeli National Cyber Security Directorate (INCD) under the Prime Minister. Um, in UK, it is under the GCHQ, the equivalent of NTRO. In USA, it is under the Department of Homeland Security. In Japan also, it is under their NSA and the Prime Minister. In Australia also, it is centrally under one of the ministries. So that's the first point. The first glaring the point that comes out, that most of the developed countries and economies have now converged their major cybersecurity assets under one agency. So that is one of the aspects that we are looking at very closely. And then, as I said, indigenization and creating of the infrastructure. So by and large, that is the implication of the strategy.
Absolutely. So you've touched upon two crucial aspects. The first part was about national security in the field of cyber, and the second was with respect to corporate. I want to come back to corporate, but before that, just a very quick thought in terms of individual security also. I see that there was a lot of focus even under the 2013 policy with respect to individual safety and security online. And when we are talking about digital India and an inclusive digital India, that can happen only if the individual also feels secure. Do you feel that there can be or there will be more movement in terms of putting in place some laws or regulations or policies to protect the individual?
So you've touched on a very important point, and the first aspect of this is the PDP bill, right, which all of us are very eagerly awaiting, the Personal Data Protection Bill of 2019. which, as you know, is presently being examined under a committee under Ms. Meenakshi Lekhi. And I'm really hoping that in some session of the Parliament this year, it passes and becomes an act. It would be PDP 2020 Act or something. But that is the first step, I think, where we are going to, not when I say we, means the general public of India and the industry and the government are going to understand the value of data. Somehow we have not understood the value of data. Just see in USA, the Federal Trade Commission has fined Facebook $5 billion, and Facebook has paid also for that 81 million leak that took place for Cambridge Analytica. And there have been many other cases. I can tell you about a dozen cases offhand immediately as to what has been the cost of data in various countries, the UK also, Italy also, and you see what is happening in EU with the GDPR. So definitely regulation is required in order to protect the individual. But if you recall what I said about the vision of our 2020 strategy, there was a word called trust in that. See, unless the individual trusts the service that is being provided on the internet, the aim of creating this ecosystem is useless. So there is also an element of educating that individual, of the awareness of that individual as to how to use a particular platform, what is good cyber hygiene, etc. So that we are going to focus very seriously on how to ensure that trust is built between the individual and the service that he is being offered.
In fact, cybersaathi.org was set up precisely for this reason, sir. I realize that I've been doing a lot of sessions for judiciary, for police, government, etc. But the real stakeholders in digital India are the individuals. And the awareness or the safety and security measures, the preventive and protective processes were not really percolating to the individual. And I thought that Cyber Saathi could be one vehicle amongst many, which can also carry this message forward. Talking about the most important PDP bill is again going to actually be a very important legislation. I feel not just for individuals and protection of their data, but also a kind of enabler for businesses. I am one of those optimists who always believes that law is actually a facilitator or an enabler for innovation and growth. And it's not really meant to be a stumbling block. So going forward, and this is a dialogue which or a narrative which I come across often in my conversations with people in emerging technologies. Unfortunately, what has happened is blockchain became a household word because of cryptocurrency, and therefore it became interlinked with it. Today, there is a lot of traction in terms of innovation in blockchain, but the kind of growth that this field could have seen has not really been met for India. And in many of the conversations, what I hear is that there is uncertainty, there is a little bit of fear in the minds of the innovators on where is law heading, and if they invest today in innovation, is there a possibility that there may be something that would come up through regulation or law which will kind of constrict their rights? One of the reasons why I'm told that this fear happens is also because of the proposed draft amendment for the cryptocurrency bill that was placed by the second committee. If you look at the definitions there, effectively the bar or ban which talks about cryptocurrencies also encompasses, for instance, tokenization. So these kind of uncertainties that possible laws or regulations bring in can then become the stumbling blocks. Where law can be an enabler, uncertainty can become a stumbling block. So is there any way we can ensure that, one, based on the strategy documents or a policy document, and two, based on the need of the hour, which various emerging technologies and business houses have put forth as their issues or concerns, can India look forward to very strong and precise and certain directions in terms of either a policy document for emerging technologies or preferably a law or regulations in these fields? We really need to lead now, sir, because we have a lot of powerful infrastructure in terms of even people on the IT field. We are the leaders in the IT field, but we are not really
Yeah.
leading in terms of products, patents, and innovation. So we have to get there now.
I think you've given the answer yourself, Nappinai, being a legal eagle. But yeah, you're right. I mean, law has to be an enabler. And let me share with you in the proposed strategy, we had a discussion on the need for a Cybersecurity Act because the IT Act of 2000 and its 2008 amendments. Again, 2008, 2020, 12 years have passed. There are many issues of digital evidence being admissible in court. Even today, so many cases that we follow, we find that both from the point of view of the judiciary as well as the investigative agency, that there are many points of conflict. The issue of privacy versus security, that in a democracy like India is a very important issue. Something has happened in China recently regarding the cryptocurrency. You may have heard of it. As to they've announced something. So that is currently under discussion in India also as to what is the impact of cryptocurrency. So there are issues. There are issues of IPR, intellectual property rights in India, etc. So I agree with you that if we can get a cybersecurity act and it will be formed by people, including experts such as you, I'm sure we'll be able to address all these issues. And we
So
have
I
many.
would,
I'm surprised to find so many cyber legal experts in the country, and they're all very good, I must say.
yes. And you can count on our support at any point of time. So that is what we have been doing a lot of work in this field on. Thank you again for joining me. But before we part, one final message for the audience in terms of what can be their expectation and what does India have in store to ensure a safe, secure, and open digital India, sir.
Well, there are three hard truths in the cyber world. First is that vulnerabilities will continue to exist with whatever you do. And the second is, if the vulnerability is existing, then the cyber attacks will continue to take place. And the third is that attribution will continue to remain as difficult as it is today. So if this is the environment that is going to be existing, then my advice is that in the pandemic, we are hearing a lot of stories about good physical hygiene, washing hands, and mask and everything. Uh, First priority is your physical hygiene. The second priority has to be your cyber hygiene. And cyber hygiene will include, how do you protect yourself against all the lures of the phishing mails that are coming, how to put a good antivirus, how to keep your software updated, good password policy, how to restrict yourself in the social media. Don't always go for that I agree thing, which all apps to download, how to check the apps. So there's a lot to cyber hygiene also, which we don't realize. So that is my final message. First, physical hygiene. Number two, priority cyber hygiene. Please try and follow it. Thank you very much, Ms. Nappinai. It's always a pleasure speaking to you, and I like this Cyber Saathi initiative that you have done. It's like a crusade, and whatever support we can, we will. I assure you, we will support that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being with us, sir. Thank you.